All right. First of all, I didn't model it last time, but you lost your Aragorn hair because you didn't have Aragorn hair. Or you were starting down that road anyway. But
it's getting close.
Yeah, but I did decide. I added to my Aragorn T-shirt, which my mother isn't thrilled about, but who cares?
You added to it.
All right, not add to it. I got it. This is my first of my Lord of the Rings nerdiness needing to have the merchandise stuff. Anyway, but
brought to you by Lord of the Rings, also Dairy Queen. Delightful.
Yeah. Well, you didn't want to say McDonald's, since you said Starbucks when I brought you Caribou. Anyway.
Sacrilege. Nothing like a strawberry shake. Mm-hmm. So,
anyway,
Lord of the Rings. Peripheral characters or
characters.
Maybe,
well, I know someone made a comment, or another YouTuber I was watching said, the cool thing about it is, even though there's some characters that don't get as much glory or whatever, every character has an important role to play that nobody else does. Nobody does what Gimli does, even though mainly he does is make us laugh, but nobody makes us laugh in that way. Nobody does what Merry and Pippin does. Nobody does what Legolas does or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think this person had tied it into, maybe Tolkien kind of intended that to be how in the church we all have different roles to play. And, we might not all preach on Sunday. We might not all lead kids' church. We might not do all this stuff, but it's all important. So I thought it was interesting.
But it's hard to always feel like it's all important.
Yeah.
So sure, as the mouthpiece of the church, quote unquote, I get a glamorous job. The worship leaders get a glamorous job. Mm-hmm. The teachers of Sunday school or whatever get a quote unquote glamorous job. Whereas, the giving that is done, some of our biggest givers don't really volunteer anywhere else.
Yeah.
Most of them do. Because usually, when you're that committed with your money, you're usually quite committed with your time as well. But, there are kids' ministry positions that people would say are oof. It's my turn for the nursery. That's not everybody's cup of tea. And even the people that serve in the nursery, it's not always their cup of tea, but they're willing to do it.
Yeah.
That is a real blessing.
There's some days where it's I really don't want to get out of bed today. I'd much rather stay in bed and not go to church and teach Sunday school right now, but I do it. I love doing it, but sometimes I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah. But I think Tolkien does a great job of helping us to see how each one does their part, as Paul says, in 1 Corinthians.
Well, concerning the movies, do we think Peter Jackson, or do we think Tolkien, or do we think both? Probably both.
We think Tolkien, I think, because he's the one who set it up that way.
Yeah, but
what's that?
Well, I don't know. I just don't know, there might be some characters that he kind of, he altered Arwen's role. Peter Jackson altered Arwen's role. It was Glorfindel or some other elf that saved Frodo, but he wanted Peter Jackson and the other writers wanted her to have more of a role than just, that pretty elf that Aragorn loves, or whatever. They wanted her to have more of a role. Mm-hmm. So they gave her more of a bigger job, which I think that only helps the movie. Some people, purists might whine, but I think it only added to it.
Purists of the books are always going to have a hard time with any places that, any changes at all, they're going to think are major changes, right?
Yeah.
But it's just hard to adapt books to the screen. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we've seen from time immemorial. Mm-hmm. Adapting a book to the screen, it's hard to show certain things in a film. But anyway, Tolkien though does such a brilliant job of spreading around the importance that, like we talked about last time, it's hard to even who is the main character? Is Frodo the main character? Is Aragorn the main character? Is Sam the main character?
Mm-hmm. Who's the true hero?
Who's the true hero of the tale? Is Gandalf? Gandalf maybe is more portrayed that way in the movies than he is in the books too, but
less the hero or more the hero?
More the hero, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean,
but it's it's just hard to who is the actual focal point, and like Mr. Barnes, our friend from San Diego, said, it's Sam.
Yeah.
Just matter of fact, the book is about Sam. It's really he's the main hero.
And if you talk to my boss, she's like, no, Aragorn is the hero, and I kind of have to agree with her. I mean, I mean, well, I think what
it's kind of brilliant what Tolkien did.
Yeah, well, what I think about it too is, and maybe we talked about this last time. I said I think Aragorn had the most visible arc. He changed the most, at least in the movies. You know, he changed the most from, whereas the other characters not flat, but they didn't change. Like Sam is still this. I mean, as much as I love, he didn't need to change because he was pretty much perfect. You know, whatever. But I mean, maybe that's a goofy thing. So, you know what I mean? He already had this. He was so loyal. He was so tenacious. All that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Frodo changes. He basically becomes the martyr. I mean, that's what I would describe him, because he basically dies for the cause, even though, and gets his eternal rewards. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't know. But anyway, that's what I think. Where I think a lot of people come from, that Aragorn is the main character. That's what she said.
I think what we see with Sam and Aragorn actually is very similar, because I think they had this character in them all along, but without the crushing process of, it's like a diamond coming out of coal, like.
Or then what's the song?
Without the super challenge-oriented thing that they're trying to do, you wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
And both of them, you know, they go from being good people who are capable of great things to being people who carry out great things.
Yes.
When pressed. When pressed, Frodo kind of succumbs to the ring. When pressed, Sam steps up throughout the whole thing. When pressed, Aragorn steps up through the whole thing. So
yeah, and Merry and Pippin. I mean, I know, like, and like Merry and Pippin, I think in a lot of ways, I'll be really honest. I mean, I thought they were hilarious in the first two movies, but in the first movie I thought they were hysterical, and the second movie was kind of meh. But in the third movie, I'm like, oh wow, you have a purpose other than making us laugh. Yeah. And as I said, because my mom has told, my parents watched the movies with me, and my mom was like, I love the Hobbitses, they were so cute, and I was like, yeah I love the Hobbits too. But,
sorry, what?
Sorry.
Brought to you by DQ.
Oh God, I know you distracted me.
The Hobbitses. So cute. That's what you're saying.
My mom was like, the Hobbitses are so cute. And I said, you know, they were cute, but it's like, I didn't fully see Merry and Pippin's, I was telling my mom just last night, I said, you know, I didn't fully see Merry and Pippin's purpose until the third movie, because they actually did something other than making us laugh. And she's like, well, what's wrong with that? I'm like, well, nothing. It's just that they just make us laugh. But it was really nice because, like, even though Gimli is there making us laugh, he actually does something besides, like, you know, he fights. Even though half of it is like
he's a warrior. I mean, that's his thing.
And Legolas is hilarious when he's bantering with Gimli, but it's not like he's.
But he's also a warrior. When it comes down to it, those guys can fight.
Yeah, like.
And
well, like when my coworker said, Legolas was kicks butt. He got some stuff done or something like that. You know, you can't really. I mean, yeah, Merry and Pippin do that, but in the first two movies, they're basically there just to make you laugh. I think they're more comic relief.
They are, but you know, I mean, you can't sneeze at the gathering of the Ent.
Yes.
You know,
that
army.
That was cool to see too.
And they're the ones that, you know, wander into the forest, wake the trees, bring the trees to dismantle what's going on at Isengard, and that's real. Kind of all culminates, you know, that Helm's Deep and Isengard, it all just.
And then and then the next time we see them, aren't they basically? Are they drunk or high? There's something's wrong with them.
when are they smoking the whatever they call it,
smoking the weed, basically.
The something weed from the Shire? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what's wrong with them.
They're definitely, you know, there's a lot of funny that those two and Legolas and Gimli bring, but when it comes down to it, again, when they're pressed, these guys step up.
They got grit. That's what I liked.
They've got grit. That's right. So
yeah, but that was.
It's fun to see.
Yeah, and I mean it's cool. Like I think it's so cool. Like how each character is so, like I think I maybe already said, like how separate, how they're each unique, they each have their own personality, and I mean maybe it is also like the brilliant casting, how well they cast this movie perfectly. I can't imagine anyone else playing any of the roles. Like,
yeah, it's hard.
I can't imagine. I mean, I told my, like I keep saying, like society dodged a bullet because Nicolas Cage turned down the role of Aragorn. That would have been awful. It would have been terrible. No offense to Nicolas Cage, but.
Well, it's hard to imagine.
But it's like
being taken seriously in that
Yeah.
role.
And then there's like another actor that like they had actually cast and then they realized it wasn't going to work out or whatever. And you think about it, like, well, if he had played it, and then someone said, oh yeah, Viggo was Mortensen was up for the part, we would have been like, really? I can't imagine anyone else. So it might just be the iconicness of the role.
I think that's probably happened with a lot of movies where we go, oh, I cannot imagine. And maybe they weren't even the first choice, you know?
Yeah.
So in some cases you go, that was poor casting. But usually it's the other way. It's like, oh, I just can't see somebody else playing this role.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, a lot of other peripheral people. Two of whom that I really, really enjoy are Finn and Eowyn. You know, and Eowyn is, again, she's sort of becoming maybe love interest for Aragorn, and that doesn't pan out.
I hated that part. I will say I hated that part.
Yeah, and I don't, because I like Eowyn a lot.
I do too. I just.
But.
Well, I think what it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say to see her then head off with the troops and end up killing this ring wraith.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, what? Just awesome.
I know. One of my friends said that's her favorite of the characters, and it's like, well, I love her. She's just not my favorite. But it's like,
yeah.
And I think part of it was too. I think the reason why I didn't like that idea of her as a love interest for Aragorn was because they set up, because they'd already talked about by the time he meets her about how Arwen had pledged themselves to each other like long before this. I think if he had gotten with her, even though he was doing like I want her to go to the end, I want what's best for Arwen. If he'd fallen in love with Eowyn, it would have just made him look like a drip or whatever. It would not have made him look like. It would have kind of done something to his character. And
I would have to see how that dynamic is portrayed in the book, because it's possible that if I read the Fellowship, got the full setup, it may feel way different.
Like him with Eowyn?
Right, him and Arwen not ending up together. But of course, the way it's portrayed in the movie, I'm going, I wish he would have ended up with Eowyn, you know, because I think the character of Arwen, like, I go, she's okay. So I'm probably completely flipped from where you're at.
I mean, I don't know. I think and maybe it's just too, like, I don't know why. Maybe it's just, again, like,
it's the romantic in you. People are plighting their truth to one another, you know? Like that kind of thing. And it's like, you got to honor it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I was glad that Eowyn ended up with Faramir, because it would have been really sad if she had, you know, she's seen them reunite and then she hadn't. You know, she's
two really strong characters, Eowyn and Faramir. So you can't feel bad about that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the way they're portrayed in the movies, I'm just saying, if Arwen ends up getting on the ship and heading to the Western Isles, you know, whatever. Yeah, it wouldn't have crushed me by any means. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, but
yeah, there's just I like the word you used earlier. A lot of these characters exhibit so much grit.
Yeah, I think that's the word you used last time.
And it could be. It's one of my favorite words. It's one of my favorite concepts. It's one of, like, we're talking about romance in the movies and the books alongside grit. And we're not putting them in the same context, but I always put those in the same context when it comes to marriage. Mm-hmm. One of the things I almost always talk about at a wedding, and that's one of the cool things about my job. I get to do weddings. That's how wild is that? But is grit. Like, you gotta have grit in your life, man. You think all your relationships, you think all your jobs, you think all your raising kids and college and whatever it is that you face in life is going to be easy? No, you're going to need grit in every single area. So anyway, I like seeing that in the characters of the books.
Well, I know I was watching somebody else talk. He was gonna go through and rank the characters, and he had
rank the characters.
Yeah, well, he had like a tier list, like not necessarily which one is better than the other, which is like, is this one awesome? Is this one good? No,
yeah.
All the way down to bad. And he goes over and he picks up, like, he was like, he was recording his computer screen so you could see it, and he's like, all right, now we have Legolas. And so he said, I was gonna put him in the awful tier. I'm gonna put I'm just kidding, I'm gonna put him in the awesome. And someone had commented saying, my blood boiled for a second. And I said, that's exactly what mine did. My thought was, you can't put my Leggy in the apple tier. No. I mean, I don't know.
What a job to try to rank them according to,
Which one's the best?
Yeah, like, I'm going to rank all the characters 1 to 180.
I take it back. It was just the heroes. Like, the main heroes are in the movie.
Yeah.
So I take it back. But it was just kind of like...
Give them a score out of 10 kind of thing.
Yeah, but I was just like... But I thought it was funny that someone else had the exact same thought, like, my blood boiled for a second. And I'm like, yeah. I would have been like, okay, shut off the video because I can't trust your ranking if you put it that low.
Well, it's kind of fun to, to see where somebody else would...
Yeah, I'm
okay,
kidding.
here are the, the favorite characters. I mean, if you ask 10 people who are your favorites, you get predictables at the top, but they'd be different. They'd be somewhat different, because I would put people like Theoden and Eowyn way higher than you probably would, and you'd probably put certain people toward the top that I might not.
Yeah. Well, who are your top 5?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, didn't we last time just kind of say, like, Sam, Aragorn, and Gandalf, I think, were probably right up there for me. I really think Theoden is a strong character once he's delivered,
Yeah, but I said Aragorn, Sam, and I think I said I have a hard time picking a third, but if I had to pick a third, I'd probably put, like, Legolas or...
Yeah.
Which is weird, because, like, I feel like I should put Frodo, but I can't. I have to put him down behind a whole bunch
Frodo, I mean, yeah, I like Frodo, but I don't know.
I don't like... I mean, again, it goes... I don't know. For, like, Aragorn, it all goes back to his arc. That's what I think about him. Like, that's what I think of. I mean, even though... I mean, look, obviously, from my shirt, I find his appearance attractive. It's not just that I like. I like, again, that they used his...
Here we go again!
They used his appearance to portray the arc that he was going... This journey he was on, or whatever. But... And Sam, I mean, I just think, like, he's kind of like the best friend that everybody wants. Yeah. I know what I said this to, like, I was thinking about it yesterday. I said, Sam is the best friend that everybody wants, and Aragorn's the guy that every girl wants to date. A lot of girls want to date.
Could be.
That's what I thought about, or something like that.
Yeah.
He's like...
But Sam, man, Sam is just, there's so much substance to him, and... Yeah, I aspire to be more like Sam. Just courageous. Just one of the scenes that really speaks to Sam. We're right back to
the one in
Cars, right? You got some real stuff, kid. Is when he's walking up into the tower where Frodo is, after Shelob has stung him, and he's walking up and. Like, he knows a bunch of orcs are coming down. He knows this is a life or death situation. And he's just like, trying to make himself sound and look
doesn't he use his shadow on the wall or something?
Yeah, and then here he comes around the corner and it's like, oh, it's a little hobbit.
I think Frodo actually got scared. I think Frodo actually didn't realize it was him, I thought.
Could be, I don't know. Frodo in the movie, anyway, is still up in the tower, just coming off the effects of the venom, I think.
I don't know. I just thought, but I remember, or maybe the audience doesn't know that's Sam right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
the audience doesn't.
Yeah, I know of, like, some of my favorite lines. I mean, Sam says 2 of my favorite lines in the whole movie. One is, in the trilogy, one is, there's some good in the world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. And that whole speech is just glorious. And I remember watching it with you guys, coming out of, as we're going through the world right now, I remember being like, like the part what is it? Sometimes you don't want to know the ending because how can the ending be good when it's so scary? But they kept going on, they kept pressing forward, they kept having grit, even though they didn't use that word. And he says, there's some good in the world, Mr. Frodo, and there's worth fighting for. And then the other line,
and he says it, and you're just like,
Yeah, and the other line that he says
good.
That's just, I absolutely adore is, he says, when they're like right up the final stretch of Mount Doom, he says, I can't carry it for you, Mr. Frodo, but I can carry you.
Yeah.
And that always just gets me, because I'm like, there might be times where it's like, to me it's like, okay, Christians, are you listening? That's what you need to do. Sometimes you might be able to say, okay, I can't carry that burden I can't physically carry that burden for you, but I can carry you. Maybe you have to actually physically carry someone, maybe. But
unlikely, but
you might, like, I can spiritually carry you, I can emotionally carry you, whether it's like, yeah, we can sit and cry together, or it's I can pray for you, or...
Yeah. Or, I mean, in very practical ways, sometimes the church can step in again. Is it glamorous to, make somebody a hot dish, casserole to you non-Minnesotans? Is that a glamorous thing? No, but it's a very powerful thing. Mm-hmm. Somebody has a baby, somebody is recovering from a surgery, somebody's, going through cancer or something, and to step up. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's your presence, sometimes it's your prayers, as you said. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's, what was the other thing you said? You mentioned prayers and...
Sitting and crying with a person.
Yeah, which I guess would be presence, but just, there are so many ways, and often such behind-the-scenes stuff that nobody's ever going to know about, unless you go and post it on Facebook. Had a great cry session, and also brought some casserole too, which, of course, people love to use social media to advance their perceived value, right? Mm-hmm. By doing stuff like that, like, oh, just had here's a selfie with me and this sick person in the hospital, which you wouldn't take now, probably, but there are so many ways that we do that for each other. Mm-hmm. Bear up one another's burdens. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it might not be glamorous, but it sure is the stuff of grit. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
Yeah, so I know we hadn't really talked about Gandalf at all, but so you want to talk a little bit about like why he's your favorite? I mean, I love him too, but
Gandalf, I suppose one thing that appeals to me about Gandalf, it appeals to me about Jesus too. I watched The Chosen and I'm like, gosh, can you imagine just knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt, like you have the power to heal this person given to you by God. In the case of Jesus, he is God, but the Chosen does such a great job, and I don't know if you've watched the first season or not, but
I have, like, quite a while ago, but yeah.
Yeah, but in several of those episodes there's moments where Jesus gets to spring something on somebody. He gets to spring information on them that he can only know if, like the woman at the well, okay, the final episode. He springs this information on her, and she's like, oh, I can see that you are a prophet. And he's like, not just a prophet, kind of thing. And Gandalf does a lot of that too. The I come back to you now at the turning of the tide moment in the forest with, well, I suppose it's the two hobbits, right? Isn't it with Merry and Pippin?
Yeah, like when they don't know if it's him or Saruman.
Right, where they think they set you up. At least Peter Jackson sets the viewer up.
I thought that was with Aragorn and because when Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli meet him again.
They're wandering through.
They're looking for the hobbits.
They're wandering through the woods, though, right?
Yeah, they're in the woods looking for the hobbits.
You're right. It's not the hobbits. It's the other three.
And And if you're listening, you can hear it's Ian McClellan's voice, so you're pretty sure who it is.
Yeah.
But you're not positive.
But he sounds just enough like the guy who plays Saruman. You're like,
Christopher Lee.
Yeah. So so he springs it on them. The springing on the orcs at Helm's Deep. The drawing of the demon, if you will, with Theoden. These scenes. There's something so appealing to me about that. The power that Gandalf has, like Jesus, over the spiritual forces of evil. Mm-hmm. And now, he does have a fight with Saruman, where Saruman wins. So he's not totally, triumphant. Of course, Jesus allowed himself to be bound and taken away.
He allowed himself, or and I mean, some people have made the comment, that fly, you fools, or whatever. It's implied that it looks like he actually let go on purpose. He went down on purpose. He didn't fall. He let go.
He goes down he descends into hell, if you will. Yeah. On purpose.
Well, I know that's what. Well, I know that's what when I was watching this, my dad was like, because when he's talking about how he'd actually died, and then he'd kind of come back to life. He's like, is that still when Christ was resurrected? And I said, yes, in a lot of ways. And I don't think we were talking about this on the video. I think we were talking about before we filmed last time. But I was talking about I had an article I read about the different characteristics, but who is the Christ figure? Because it's not like Chronicles of Narnia where, boom, it's Aslan. There's no
just one. Yeah.
There's just
it's
one.
It's really wrapped up in 3,
yeah,
or 4 even.
Which is kind of it's 3. The Trinity. That's kind of cool. Like Gandalf has so many traits of Jesus, like the. I think they kind of compared Aragorn to the Revelation Jesus because he's the coming, the returning victorious king. He sets up his kingdom on the earth for a certain number of years, and then Sam has like the what did they say? The trait he has so many traits of Jesus too, like the suffering servant, which Frodo does too.
Yeah, it's like Sam and Frodo, and Aragorn and Gandalf. So
yeah, I just think I don't know. To me, Frodo doesn't have as many of the traits, but that's me. But and I mean, I think to me, what I would say is like Aragorn and Gandalf together have most of the traits, and then Frodo and Sam kind of have less. But that's me because they don't touch on this in the movies. I think Aragorn is a healer. It's implied that he's a healer, like a doctor, basically. And I think it's implied this is just my understanding, and maybe I'm thinking of some other stuff that I read, but it's because Elrond, the elf, had raised him, and Elrond is a healer, and he just taught him, the tricks of the trade or whatever. But so I think you see in some deleted scenes like him taking care of the wounded or whatever. But in the book, there's a line that says that he's going from tent to tent, touching people and healing them, like not like taking care of them, like physically touching them and healing them, and I think someone's asking like, well, what's going on? And Gandalf says, well, in the hands of the true king, there's healing or something like that. So there is that's like such a clear comparison to Jesus, and that he's the healer, he's the one who can.
Yeah, and even one thing I've never thought about before, but when Aragorn, and this will probably have to be the last comment I make, but when Aragorn goes into the mountain. And garners the help of the dead. There is the passage in 1 Peter chapter 3, I think, where it talks about Jesus descending into hell, preaching to those who, in the days of Noah. So this is pre-Christ, preaching to those who, in the days of Noah, were basically wiped out in the flood. And it's there's kind of now that I think about it, there's kind of an interesting corollary there because Aragorn goes into the mountain. He gathers the support of these who they're kind of like in between. They're not. I don't know. I guess they are fully dead, aren't they? It's like the spirits of the dead. I don't exactly know.
That's part I'm confused, but I know someone called someone because Legolas is also in Pirates of the Caribbean, not the actor. Like Orlando's in both movies. They had said like that guy captain is called the Middle Earth Barbossa or something all the time, which is kind of he's a character in the captain of the dead pirates or something like that. So I just thought that was kind of funny, but so they're kind of like the
comparison, but
so I don't know. I thought they were kind of like maybe I'm confused, but I think they were supposed to come and help Isildur at some point, and
they betrayed him.
Yeah. So they were cursed to live a living death, so basically be zombies. It sounded like until
something like that.
Because when Aragorn says, "I released you, you filled your vow," they like basically die in peace. They live in peace.
Yeah. So.
But because they're dead, they can't be killed.
It's probably as confusing, in the book as the 1 Peter passages, because it's like, well, what does that exactly mean? For Christ to preach to those who were pre-Christ, who died in their sin, and of course, some of that you have to hit with just the Deuteronomy 29. Obviously, God has not revealed to us everything, which people outside of the church get just absolutely infuriated by. My one friend calls it the faith blanket. Oh, you're going to throw the faith blanket over that, huh?
Yeah.
And in other words, it's just blind faith. I just say, well, wherever I don't understand, God is able, or very unsatisfying to a person who does not trust God. I've said, well, I've just decided that I trust God with those things, and he's like, yep, it smells like faith blanket to me.
That's him.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, it's there is so much, and that passage from 1 Peter that I don't understand, and that's a person can either choose to say I trust God with the things that I don't understand, or I don't.
Well, the Trinity itself is over my head. There's so much about it I don't understand. I'm like, I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. So it's like, yeah, there's so many things. It's like, I mean, yeah, we study. Yeah, we do our best. But it's okay to be like, yeah, I'm going to trust God with what I don't know.
I don't care who you are. You have to either throw a faith blanket over things, like we do in Christianity, if you want to call it that, or you throw a science blanket over things. I mean, science, we just haven't discovered that yet.
Well, there's a line in a movie.
That's a science blanket, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, there's a line in the movie The Case for Christ where Lee Strobel's friend mentor tells him, because Lee is like, I can't decide. I don't know where I'm at with believing in God or whatever. And his friend who's an atheist says, Lee, at some point you're going to have to plant your flag on a mountain of uncertainty. You just get to pick which one it is.
Yeah,
you can't,
exactly.
You'll never know everything. You'll never know the cosmos completely if you're going to be a science person, and you'll never know God completely if you're going to believe in God.
Right.
So even in their unbelief, there's an element of faith.
There is, absolutely. They would call it something else, not faith, but they'd call it something. But, I'm okay, you hear this a lot from people outside of faith. I've learned to become okay with the uncertainty, or sitting in the tension, or, where there are things I don't know, I'm okay just, I hear that a lot, sitting with the uncertainty.
Yeah. So Lee's like, I didn't understand everything. I just reached the point where it'd take more faith to stay an atheist than to become a Christian.
Yeah, and it's completely correct. You plant your flag either on Mount, certainty in God, resting in God, or certainty in self, resting in science and data, resting in, like my buddy Tim, resting in the balance, the earth, the natural world, what's the word that I'm looking for? The synergy between human beings and the planet and animals and whatever. We all rest in something. So
we all just pick something to rest in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, I gotta go.
Yeah.
So
well, thank you.
This has been good.
Yeah.